So welcome back to the channel. You're here with Nate, and today I want to talk about the mastering process that I use inside of Studio One 5.5 and just go over the whole plugin list and show you guys exactly what I do to master this track. And this is actually a professional mastering track, so this is one I'm working on right now and I'm pretty much finished. So I want to share, my techniques and all that sort of stuff with you guys. So let's get straight into the video. Let's go.
Cross Beat Production.
Okay, so before we get into the video, I just want to mention the sponsor of today's video as well. This video has been sponsored by DistroKid. With DistroKid, you can use a thing called hyperfollow, and what hyperfollow is, it basically allows you to give the people that you want to follow the track a link before the track actually hits iTunes. It's once you've uploaded the song and you've got it available on the DistroKid platform, it gives them a way to follow the song and it notifies them as to when the song comes out. So their preferred platform like iTunes, Spotify, all that sort of stuff. So it gives them somewhere to kind of just go to as a holding sort of before the song gets up. It's a really cool service. It's free on DistroKid for people who use DistroKid, and I feel like it's really beneficial. I've actually used it before to share it with my friends and stuff like that, so they know where my song is and when it's coming out. So anyway, that's something that DistroKid have as a feature. I really think it's cool. You should check it out. Check the link down below if you want any more information about that. But we'll get straight into this tutorial. Let's go. So with this mastering tutorial, I want to cover off kind of like my hybrid setup that I've got here. So I've got the Darth limiter, which you can see on the screen as well. That's the actual Darth limiter. It's like pretty cool. I like to use analog when I do my mastering because some of the things that I like to do with analog, I kind of find a little bit harder to do inside the box. One of those is clipping, and the features that this actual limiter have are really my favorite as far as a clipper is concerned. Let's get straight into this tutorial. I want to cover off step by step how I went through and mastered this track. What I'll do is I'll play the track to you so you can hear it, and we'll cover off some of the stuff as well. So you can see on the screen you've got the limiter plugin here and then the actual limiter on the screen as well. So let's get straight into this. I'll play the track. Let's go.
All these flames in the air, cause it's Sam Willie Road, just as blue as the sky. Will I stand, will I fall? Ay. We be chasing light every single day. Ay. We be facing life every single way. Ay. Have my problems, so I gotta wait. Ay. Have my problems, but I gotta wait. Ay. Now I gotta roll call. Ay. Everybody wanna know. Ay. Better get on that roll call. Ay. Everybody won't go always. Got your problems with me, you wanna face this. Now I don't mess with no fake gifts. Signs that
Alright, so you got to excuse sometimes the clicks and the pops. It's just because I've got so much processing happening, and then my screen recording software is taxing my CPU pretty badly as well. But anyway, we'll do our best, and I'll try and show you exactly what I've got going on here. So as you can see, these tracks are all printed in audio. If I was to go back to all the hidden tracks, which I'm not going to, but everything pretty much came from either a VST or a sample. Then I printed those from the VST, so I've got full control and I'm not taxing my CPU as much as well when I do the mix. And I might cover a mixing tutorial because there's a fair bit going on here with the mixing side of things as well. But I just want to do mastering in this video because I feel like it's a really a topic that I feel like is quite beneficial. So first off, as far as the mix, let me just disable some of these plugins so you can see in order of how they're working. And I'm going to leave the ones that are creating the loudness on. So I'll explain those nearer to the end, and then I'll just go through the EQ and stuff first. So first of all, this is the EQ that is first on the mastering chain. So this is my mix bus out, so my main bus. And then I've got some plugins on the post, which is just the limiter plugin. But the EQ, what that's doing is not a whole lot, to be honest. It's taking out some of the lows at 11 hertz, so real low lows that I don't need there. Can't hear it. No chance of ever hearing that. And I'm just figuring, why have it there. So I use a high cut filter. I'm using a 24 dB octave per slope on that one, sorry. and I'm just removing pretty much all of that from below that amount there. And later on you'll see exactly how I step through and what I do this and why. But it's the next filter here is on the mids as well. So again, I've split this EQ just into mid side basically, and I'm just using the mids. I'm not removing any of the sides yet. So I'm using a 49 Hertz, and I'm taking out about 0.79-ish dB, so not even 1 dB. Again, at 116, and you can see on the chart there what it's doing. Then I'm using a dynamic EQ, and this dynamic EQ is at 1108, and that's taking out not even that much, but 0.68. And it's dynamic, so it pushes down when the frequencies are playing. So I'll just show you what that's doing with it on and then off.
That you know, all these flames in the air, cause it's Sam Willie Road, just as blue as the sky. Will I stand, will I fall, ay? We be chasing light every single day, ay. We be facing life every single way, ay. Have my problems, and you know I gotta wait, ay. Have my problems, but you know I gotta wait, ay. Now you know I gotta roll call, ay. Everybody wanna know, ay. Better get on that roll call, ay.
All right, so as you could hear and see visually, I'm just going to quit my email so I don't have to keep getting stuff. Thanks to Isotope. I love Isotope. They're pretty cool. So the EQ that's working there, it's really just taking when that clap sort of sound is happening, it's just hitting that clap and also some of the other high frequencies. And you could see they were kind of spiking a little bit in that area. So I thought, you know, what better way to remove it than using a dynamic EQ? And I love Fab Filter stuff for this. It works really well, and that's kind of my go-to for that. The next plugin here, which is a older plugin, I haven't used this for a little while, but I figured it was suitable for this, and I don't have a Manly Massive Passive EQ, so I figured I shall use this instead. So as far as recall, it's probably easier anyway. So I've got this split into mid side, so I'm using the mid frequencies, taking out a little bit at the low end, so at 68 Hertz, using this type of filter, and then it's same at 82, so that's just removing some, not a whole lot, not even half a dB about, and then I'm adding some in the mid frequency, so at 1K. So again, where I took it out, I put it back in, but this is again a different type of filter, so it adds it differently. And I'm using a dynamic EQ to control that as well. So, and that's that. The next one is high stuff, so 27K, really high up in the frequency area there, and I'm adding 3.4. It's not even like the way this EQ works. It's so gentle that it doesn't sound like that anyway. The next thing on this side is the sides area. So I'm cutting at 2 dB at 68, cutting at 180. Sorry, boosting. No, I'm not actually doing anything there. I'm doing a 1K frequency area, so I'm boosting 4.5. And for then the next on the highs, I got 3.7 at 27 kilohertz. So really quite high up, but that just gives it that air that I'm looking for, and it's a nice sort of sounding EQ. So let me keep that off and then play and put it on.
That you know, all these flames in the air, cause it's Sam Willie Road, just as blue as the sky. Will I stand, will I fall, ay? We be chasing light every single day, ay. We be facing life every single way, ay. Have my problems, and you know I gotta wait, ay. Have my problems, but you know I gotta wait, ay. Now you know I gotta roll call, ay. Everybody wanna know, ay. Better get on that roll call, ay. Everybody won't go always. Got your problems with me, you wanna face this.
So what I feel like that's doing, it just creates a smoothness to the track. It just gives it that nice sheen and smoothness. That's all it's doing. It's not doing a whole bunch. It's not supposed to do a whole bunch. Mastering is not about that. And the other note is, I kind of, when I mix this track, because I have everything in the one project, I was actually quite confident with the mix, and then I just started to master it within the project instead of taking it out and then doing it separately, which you can do in the project page. It's not my jam. It's just the way I did it here as well. Next plugin here is C4. So that's a Waves plugin. If you don't know what this is, it's just a multi-band compressor. The compressor allows you to obviously isolate different areas of the frequency spectrum, and I'm using just the mid area, so I'm just really pushing down some of the mids, and I'll just turn this off and then put it on when I'm playing the track as well. So let's play.
That you know, all these flames in the air, cause it's sand. Willie Road, just as blue as the sky. Will I stand, will I fall, ayy? We be chasing light every single day, ayy. We be facing life every single way, ayy. Have my problems and you know I gotta wait, ayy. Have my problems but you know I gotta wait, ayy. Now you know I gotta roll call, ayy. Everybody wanna know, ayy. Better get on that roll call, ayy. Everybody won't go always. Got your problems with me, you wanna face this. Now you know I don't.
Sorry about the clicks and pops there, but this plugin is really just controlling the mid area, so just gives it a bit more compression within that area of the mids. So from 65 or 78 to up to this area here, so you've got up to 4K. So it's really just that mid-centric kind of compression that I'm looking for, and I'm just trying to allow the track to breathe outside of that, so anywhere above that 4K and above there. So it's just really allowing that breath of the track to keep going, and that's all that that is doing. The next thing here is the stock limiter. So the reason why I have so many different limiters here, including the Darth limiter here as well, is because I like to increase using multiple limiters, so not all of the work has to be done by one. And that's a technique that I've been using for years now. It really does help as far as, you know, creating more clarity. And also if you have a limiter or a compressor or whatever you like the tone of, then you can use that as well alongside it. You don't have to do this, it's just, it works really well for me. And it goes in tandem with the clipping that I'm doing as well, and I'll show you that in just a moment. This limiter is actually boosting by quite a bit, so 9.55 dB. And there's a technique that I like to use as far as my boost of gain or reduction in gain. I like to go in 3 or 5 dB increments. So if I'm going by 3, then obviously I go 3 or 6, or 3 to 5, and then 5 to 9 or 9 to 10, either one. I just do increments of 3s or 5s. So that's how I work, depending on what it needs or sounds like. And that kind of really has worked a lot. You can see here it's 9.55, so it's just about 10, and that's kind of where I wanted it to go. I could push it to 10, but I'm not going to. Next thing here is the attack. So it's on B mode. So obviously the stock limiter has different modes, and that's a fast attack. And then I've got a fast release, so 80 milliseconds. So not too much where it's creating distortion, but enough to catch the peaks and then release them quickly. And that's on true peak. So that's what that's doing. And the next stage, I'll just actually show you without it and then on. It's going to be quite a significant dip in volume. And I'll play the track actually at the end without any of these things on here. So let's play it without. Okay, now I'll play it with it. So just check your headphones. It's going to be a bit louder.
That you know, all these flames in the air, cause it's sand. Willie Road, just as blue as the sky. Will I stand, will I fall, ayy? We be chasing light every single day, ayy.
Alright, so you can see that's reducing at minus 2.9. You get the picture. Minus 2.29. My goodness. Anyway, so the next thing here is Soothe. So Soothe to me is a beast. I've only got the first version. I haven't actually upgraded to the next, so Soothe 2, and I know there's a bit of improvements on that. But anyway, I haven't done it yet, so I just like to do with working with what's working for me, so I don't need to worry about that. So let's play without the track with Soothe, and let's play with it on there as well.
You know, all these flames in the air, cause it's sand. Willie Road, just as blue as the sky. Will I stand, will I fall, ayy? We be chasing light every single day, ayy. We be facing life every single way, ayy. Have my problems and you know I gotta wait, ayy. Have my problems but you know I gotta wait, ayy. Now you know I gotta roll call, ayy. Everybody wanna know, ayy.
Alright, so you can kind of see there's not a whole lot happening with this plugin. It's really just taking out some of the resonant frequencies and that's just to give it a little bit more control. This really does do a little bit of more smoothing on the track there. Okay, so the next plugin here is I Am Pusher. So it's an Infected Mushroom plugin, and this is my favorite as far as clipping and just adding extra harmonic content to your track. It's really cool. It does work quite well. So let's play it without it and then put it on.
All these flames in the air, cause it's Sam Willie Road, just as blue as the sky. Will I stand, will I fall? Ay. We be chasing light every single day. Ay. We be facing life every single way. Ay. Have my problems, so you know I gotta wait. Ay. Have my problems, but you know I gotta wait. Ay. Now you know I gotta roll call. Ay. Everybody wanna know. Ay. Better get on that roll call. Ay. Everybody won't go always. Got your problems with me, you wanna face this. Now you know I don't mess with no fake gifts. Sounds like you.
Alright, so all this plugin is doing, well, not all it's doing quite a bit. I'm adding some body in here, not a whole lot though, just 1.7, and that just adds that mid harmonic content, so the harmonics within the mid area. This plugin has this low section here, so I notice immediately as soon as you engage this plugin, it adds that low stuff to your track if you have this engaged. So if I disengage that, it would take away some of the lows. I'm not going to bother showing you too much, but as far as the plugin, I like to use this and then figure out, obviously, if I knew the track, the key of the track, or the bass key of the track, then I would use this as a feature there. So I know that the D1 suits this track here, so it just really gives me that low frequency that I wanted. Actually, I might disengage it and show you. Let's play.
All these flames in the air, cause it's Sam Willie Road, just as blue as the sky. Will I stand, will I fall? Ay. We be chasing light every single day. Ay. We be facing life every single way. Ay.
So it's just adding real low stuff, and it's the bass that I really like, and I can hear it on my NS10 style of speakers here, so that just, it tells me it's doing a good job. The next thing is this magic section here. So I'm not using a great deal of that, I'm just pushing it by 9.3, and then I'm using a bit of dynamic punch as well, so it's adding a little bit transient information. And this section here, I've set that to clip, and I'm pushing that by 1 dB, and I'm not taking it down. So I'm getting a bit of extra volume by doing this, and I'm adding some high frequency stuff in there, 2.5. That, for wherever the frequency filter is stopped on that, it does make a difference as far as the high end clarity, and it's not too harsh. I really like this filter here, so the high filter. And the stereo imaging, I'm using that just slight amount, so I'm getting that width, and you'll see later on in the mastering limiter here what's happening there as well. So the input, leaving that as is, I haven't touched that. I'm just using the plugin to boost a little bit of that extra harmonic stuff and high-end frequency stuff there. So next thing is the L2. L2 is just there to catch more peaks before it goes out of my door into the analog realm, and then goes through this limiter here and comes back in. So it's not actually doing too much. It's just boosting by about, I think, 0.4 of a dB, because if you look at these two here, they're almost linked at the same amount. So I'm just pushing it down, so I'm getting the extra compression. Or the limiter's basically compressing it. It's just a more clearer way of compressing without having the artifacts that a limiter creates, or the transient issues. So I'm using that, and I'm just getting a little bit more volume, and I've got it on ARC, which is the automatic release control. So that's one of my go-to kind of limiters when I want to have just a little bit more control over stuff, and it just always seems to work with the mastering side of the track there. So dithering type 1 normal, and then 24 bits, that's all. Not too much to see there. Next thing, this is the Pipeline plugin. So Pipeline allows you, if you don't know what Pipeline does, it allows you to send your track outside as a loop, and it sends it to whatever compressor or limiter that you have, EQ, May, whatever it is. You can do that and use this Pipeline plugin, and then use this auto function here, and that gives you the round trip latency, and it allows you to correct that latency so everything's in time, and then audio coming out and then coming back in is all in the same time, so you don't have any issues with smearing or phasing and stuff like that. So you can see here my samples are -68, so that's the offset, that's the compensation, and this shows you that the clipping is going on. So I don't know if I can make this bigger. No, I can't. So that's pretty much showing you, I'll just zoom in there. It shows you that the audio sample that's going out is actually being sawn off, like it's being clipped by the hardware. And I'm using this hardware for that reason, because I like the way the sound is on the hardware as far as clipping and the harmonic content that it brings in as well. So that's what that is doing. So let's have a listen to this engaged and then disengaged. It's actually making up 5 dB more. So in total, I've got about 15 dB increase of this whole mastering chain all the way to how loud it is now. So we'll have a look at that on the Insight plugin. I just don't want to turn that on yet because it's a bit CPU intensive. So let's check this out.
All these flames in the air, cause it's Sam Willie Road, just as blue as the sky. Will I stand, will I fall? Ay. We be chasing light every single day. Ay. We be facing life every single way. Ay. Have my problems, and you know I gotta wait. Ay. Have my problems, but you know I gotta wait. Ay. Now you know I gotta roll call. Ay. Everybody wanna know.
And bring it back in.
Better get on that roll call. Ay. Everybody won't go always. Got your problems with me, you wanna face this. Now you know I don't mess with no fake gifts. Signs that you know, all these flames in the air.
Now you can see on the hardware and also on the plugin. So the plugin, just pay attention to the clipper. So the clipper was going about almost at minus half a dB. So I'm just using it to clip some of the audio, and that's why I'm pushing it so hard, because I want to push into the clipper. And I've got the clipper set at 100%. So the way that the hardware works is this, I don't want to go too much in depth because it's not a tutorial on the hardware, but excuse me, with this clipper, you can turn it on or off. So if you're setting the clipper on, that's allowing the clipper to bypass the limiting section. So it has to be all the way at 100% though, just to be clipping. If you reduce this down to anything below that, it's kind of introducing the clipper and it uses the limiter in a different way then. But then the way that the limiter works, it's got two modes. So basically you've got this, so you can use it as a standard limiter, just increasing the volume, having a set frequency, a set attack, and then release. Or you can use it in clipping mode, which is what I've done here. So this doesn't really matter once I go to clipping mode, and that's what that is doing there. So again, I'm using 5, the number 5, so I like to do that. It's 5.2, but thereabouts. And I just really pushed it to 0.2 because I was like, I can get an extra couple of dB or 0.0 dB out of it. I'm using the width at 1, so that just creates a bit of width there, and I'll show you what this sounds like without it.
Flames in the air, cause it's Sam Willie Road, just as blue as the sky. Will I stand, will I fall? Ay. We be chasing light every single day. Ay. We be facing life every single way. Ay. Have my problems, and you know I gotta wait. Ay. Have my problems, but you know I gotta wait. Ay.
So I don't know how much you can hear on YouTube, but what that does is it creates a mid-side matrix within the hardware itself, and then it allows me to create width with the side channel. It just is a really cool way of splitting the channels up and giving you extra clarity in the mix. The reason why I've reduced this by minus 1.1 is because I don't want to clip my converter. Well, I mean, it's not that I don't want to, but this is the way I'm doing it. I'm preventing the A to D from clipping, and it's using this as the clipper before it hits the A to D conversion, so the analog to digital converters. So the next thing down here, this is the odd and even harmonics. So I'm using these two, so odd and even, they're both on. I've got one at 35%, and that's drive at 30%. And the frequency is at 56. Now, if you remember back on this previous plugin, I reduced here. This is at 68, and I also reduced to 68. So I was kind of like, I felt like I wanted to add the harmonic content there, not having the EQ so much. And that's also the reason why I put this in here as well. So 1,105, yeah, so 11K. That's at 55%, and that's on the odd harmonics, so at 45% drive. So I'll just play it without these, and you can hear the difference. What they're doing.
All these flames in the air, cause it's Sam Willie Road, just as blue as the sky. Will I stand, will I fall? Ay. We be chasing light every single day. Ay. We be facing life every single way. Ay. Have my problems, and you know I gotta wait. Ay. Have my problems, but you know I gotta wait. Ay. Now you know I gotta roll.
Now, I love what that does. In my opinion, if you're going to use something that's inside the box, if you wanted to do something similar, you can use Isotope's plugin. So Isotope have a plugin here, which they call the Exciter. So the Exciter is probably one of my favorites before I had this hardware to do the same kind of concept. So it's multi-band, so you can put it on wherever you want. So for example, if you wanted to have it at the same kind of frequencies as I do, you could put this at 11, or just leave that filter off. Actually, just put this straight up to 11, about there, and then you could have one at 56. So thereabouts there, and then just use these two. You could use this in triode or whatever mode you wanted to put it in, but it gives you a bit of more harmonic content to the mix, and just gives you that control over the lows and the high frequencies, and it kind of leaves the mids alone. So you could just turn this off if you wanted to, and kind of replicate what I'm doing here with that type of plugin. So I love Isotope plugins. Ozone, that it's one of the best mastering suits out there, in my opinion. Anyway, that's just a way to do it if you were trying to achieve similar kind of results as to what I've done here, and then use the imaging plugin to get the width and stuff like that. I just use the hardware. Like I said, I like that, and it works really well for me. So let's have a look at this on the Insight plugin, and just check out what's happening on the meters so you're aware. I didn't want to do this because it's taxing the CPU, but anyway, let's play and see how we go.
All these flames in the air, cause it's Sam Willie Road, just as blue as the sky. Will I stand, will I fall, ay? We be chasing light every single day, ay. We be facing life every single way, ay. Have my problems, so you know I gotta wait, ay. Have my problems, but you know I gotta wait, ay. Now you know I gotta roll call, ay. Everybody wanna know, ay. Better get on that roll call, ay.
So you can see my areas of loudness. I've got a minus 9.2 lofts. So it's not extraordinarily loud, but in my opinion, it's loud enough to be in the genre that it's in. I could push it further if I wanted to, but I just felt like I liked how it sounded. And that's kind of the key. I mean, if you played it and you press the volume button up, it's going to sound just as loud as almost every other track out there. Like I said, push it if you want. This is just where I went with this one. So, I mean, in essence, you can kind of see the whole thing that's going on here. And as far as the mix, if I was to take these inserts off, I'll just play you the mix as it is, and you can see how much of volume decrease there is, or I should say increase, when I do the mastering.
In the air, cause it's Sam Willie Road, just as blue as the sky. Will I stand, will I fall, ay? We be chasing light every single day, ay. We be facing life every single way, ay.
Now you can see throughout, as I'm playing that, basically the levels are at here. So probably about, what, minus 22, thereabouts. The peak level is at minus 10-ish. So I'm really targeting kind of like the minus 20 thereabouts, and there's kind of a couple of reasons why I target that area. One, I don't need to have it extremely loud when I'm mixing it, and I kind of was mixing with the idea that I'm going to compress this a fair bit when it gets to the mastering stage, so I kind of mixed like that as well. But I'll get into a mixing tutorial later on with this one if you're interested in seeing that. I just wanted to give you guys an example of like how low the volume actually is, you know, on this mix. It doesn't have to be super loud. When you're mixing, you just try and mix so that you have quite a dynamic but a kind of compressed sound, and it really depends on the track you're working on too. So I mean, if you're working on a rock track, it's going to be way different to what the hip-hop track sounds like and how this is working. But anyway, hopefully this gives you a little bit of information about how I master what I did. If you have any tracks you want me to master, definitely hit me up in the email, and I'll definitely give you some advice, or if I can help in that respect as well. If you have comments down below, or if you want to see anything further to this, or if you have any questions, comment down below. I'll try and answer them as well. And yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this one. Hopefully it was beneficial, and if it was, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.